Psychiatry for a Mad World. An extract from the book. We have reached the point in the story of Hugh's psyche where we not only label him as a psychopath, but now we can see he is actually a violent psychopath as well. But of course, that was not how he was perceived by himself, nor by the other people in his life. Hugh is ordinary, an ordinary violent psychopath. Again, Hugh's motivation in attacking Dr. Zab was to defend his status. Dr. Zab continues to send Hugh down the ladder of social esteem, down to where he is in reality. It threatens Hugh's public image and his narcissistic false self, which makes him look unsexy, which threatens his chances to find a mate, which makes it difficult for him to pass on his genes. Hugh moves into another stage in the therapeutic process. In this chapter, Hugh offers a compromise to Dr. Zab. He asks if he makes up with Susan, whom he bullied, would Dr. Zab then cut the therapy short and let him go? Hugh is still avoiding the uncomfortable pain of the therapeutic process. This new tactic he is trying, in order to avoid therapy, is known to therapists as bargaining. But Dr. Zab intends to see the therapy through to its correct finish and will not let Hugh off the hook. Dr. Zab pushes Hugh onto the subject of war. He sees a mental health issue here, so let's glance at the psychology that drives war along. If, like Dr. Zab, we are to be global therapists, we first need to make an assessment of humanity's state of health with respect to war. An assessment of war. In the 20th century alone, there were around 105 separate wars, with a total death toll of approximately 188 million. The figure includes military and civilian deaths from battles, genocide, tyranny and war-related famine. That compares with a total of 4.126 billion other deaths for the same period, which makes the war-related deaths some 4.5% of the total death toll. Many more people than that were injured, traumatised or had their possessions or homes destroyed. Just one war, the Iraq War of 2003 and the subsequent occupation, led to the deaths of 654,965 people. More have probably died since that figure was calculated in 2006. In America's greatest conflict, the Vietnam War, some 3 to 4 million Vietnamese died, as well as 1.5 to 2 million Laotians and Cambodians. Over 3 million Americans served in the war, with an average age of 19. Of these, an estimated 58,132 died, over 150,000 were wounded, and another 21,000 were physically disabled. The Veterans Administration calculated that 830,000 Vietnam veterans suffered post-traumatic stress disorder, experiencing symptoms such as flashbacks, nightmares, guilt, depression, anger and anxiety. This amounts to around 28% of all those who experienced combat. Of these, 480,000 were so badly affected that they were considered disabled. Several hundred thousand American soldiers were exposed to defoliants such as Agent Orange. The estimated cost of the war in Vietnam during the Kennedy, Johnson and Nixon administrations was $176 billion US. In 2008, global military spending was $1.46 trillion US, or 2.4% of the world's total GDP. The figure fell after the end of the Cold War, but has risen in the past decade. We give far less as aid. The figure compares with a global official development assistance for the same year of just over $146 billion US, 1/10 as much as the military expenditure. The world currently has around 23,230 nuclear warheads, enough to destroy all of humanity. The UK's Trident nuclear missile system alone was bought for a total of £14.9 billion at 2005 pound values. In the year 2007 to 2008, the UK was estimated to spend approximately £2 to £2.2 billion on maintenance of the 4 nuclear submarines and 160 nuclear warheads. It is a weapon which can kill millions with a single warhead and has no effective use in the current war on terror. Its legality was brought into question when in 1996 the UN International Court of Justice issued an advisory opinion that the threat or use of nuclear weapons would probably violate various articles of international law, including the Geneva Convention, the Hague Conventions, the UN Charter, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.